Good morning. Thank you for joining, everybody, and good day. We're very pleased to welcome you to this number 5 in our series of webinars. This is number 4 of NAVTOR's NavStation. A little bit of housekeeping before we start. Along the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see there is a questions bar. We'd love to receive your questions all the way through. There will be a dedicated question and answer session. But there's also a chat function there, which we'll try and get to any points as they come in. So we really look forward to some engagement. We actually really benefit, I think, from having the best and the most free movement of questioning through this. So I'm going to show you today a presentation which just shows you what we have on the agenda. So I'm going to move across to that now. So I'm Richard Northover. I'm going to be hosting today's webinar. I'm going to then welcome Børge Hetland, who will give a welcome note from NAVTOR. We'll then move on to the really important section of today, which is our contribution from our partners, WNI, Weathernews International. We have an expert, Alexandra Bielski, who's going to be talking about the weather data and the weather quality and what can be done and the systems we have in place that bring weather into NAVTOR. And then going forward, we have Gauter Fosmark, who's the Senior Product Manager, and he is discussing NavStation and how that incorporates the weather data and brings on what we now call optimum ship routing. There's a short section in between those, which I will be discussing the environment again, the NAVTOR ecosystem, and what that will show is the linkage between and how we get the data between our contributors, our partners, such as WNI, through into NAVTOR and then on to the vessels. There'll be a question and answer session, as I talked about earlier, really important to us, and that is, I think, the most important thing to make sure we address people's questions. So that the understanding of today is what is it we're trying to achieve with these webinars? Well, we are trying to achieve a distribution of knowledge, a better distribution of knowledge, and making sure that every one of our customers and also potential customers gets the most benefit from NAVTOR itself, NAVTOR services, NAVTOR data. So without further ado, I'm going to move on now and introduce my colleague Børge Hetland, who will give a welcome message. So over to you, Børge.
Good morning, everyone, or maybe it's good afternoon to some of you. As Richard said, my name is Børge Hetland, and first of all, I would like to say thank you to all of you for putting your trust in NAVTOR. And also thanks again for joining us today on this webinar. Our slogan is, as you know, e-navigation made easy. And this means that our goal is to simplify all the processes around navigation-related tasks, making sure that you have all the information and tools needed to be able to plan and execute a safe and efficient route, and also to stay compliant. Weather and weather routing is an important factor when it comes to navigation. And we have, as Richard mentioned, teamed up with Weathernews, one of the biggest and most respected weather and weather routing companies in the world. Based on this partnership, we have integrated Optimum Ship Routing Service, OSR, into NavStation. And for you, this means that you don't need to have a separate application or software to do your weather routing. This is now integrated into NavStation together with all the other information and tools available in NavStation. So one of the most advantages is that you will have the optimized route displayed on top of updated ENC charts. We have, from NAVTOR side, big expectations to this partnership with Weathernews, and we believe it will make e-navigation even easier, and also to help you to become more efficient and also more cost effective. I also want to mention, maybe some of you is already aware of this, but we have recently been acquired by Accel KKR, a leading technology investment firm. And this investment will help NAVTOR to continue as a market leader and strengthen our position in the market. And we are very excited about this new investment, and we have a lot of things in the pipeline which we will be introducing to the market over the next few years. So stay tuned for more interesting things to come from NAVTOR. So by this, I would like to say again, thanks to you for joining this webinar and for using NAVTOR as your partner in e-navigation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Børge. And the contribution there is explaining how we value you as customers and how we try and everything we do really is about and arranged to try and do as best as we can for you. So moving on today, I'm going to now introduce our contributor from WNI, Weathernews International, who will talk about both weather data and also optimum ship routing. So with that, I'm going to pass across to Alexandra Bielski, and we can learn more about WNI. So over to you, Alex.
Great, thank you. Yes, hi everyone. I'm Alex Bielski, and I'm sitting here in our operations office in Copenhagen. I would like to firstly thank NAVTOR for the opportunity to speak today, to talk a little bit more about our weather data and also the optimum ship routing service that we provide. So first of all, I would like to talk to you a little bit about our forecasting models. So we'd just like to show you a little bit about how our setup is. So we have our own proprietary forecast model called OWN. We take a number of different aspects, different kind of inputs, and put this into our model. We also use a number of other models from other parts around the globe in order to enhance our own forecast model. As we know, other agencies also forecast better for certain areas. Then once we have this aspect sorted out, we also have a number of other models such as wind and wave models, and also, for example, tropical cyclone forecasting. And we kind of package all of this data up together, verify it, and then send it out to our tools that our voyage planners and risk communicators use, and then they use to do the weather routing. This data is also all packaged up and sent to NAVTOR and into the NavStation so that the captains can see this high quality weather forecast data. So here at Weathernews, we think it's really important to have the best possible forecast. So we've also looked at how we can improve our own forecast model. And as such, we've come up with a high resolution marine weather analysis model. So basically what this means is that we've looked at ways of improving our wind and our wave models and analysis. So part of our analysis is what we call our T0 kind of project. Basically what this means is that we can now have 1 hourly time step analysis. So we've increased the temporal resolution of our forecasts. So this means that we can use this data to better enhance our plans, to have a better idea of what type of weather conditions the vessels will be encountering. And this therefore will make our arrival calculations and also our fuel oil consumption calculations more accurate. The other aspect of this is we've created our new forecast model called Global Compass. This is a way of us increasing also the spatial resolution of particularly our wave forecast models. So you can see here in some of the images what this means. So this means we can have a more accurate spatial resolution, so we can kind of see more accurately where the waves will be kind of occurring and how they will propagate. And this is particularly important around the coastal areas. And this is where, you know, when the vessels will be arriving, we want to make sure we have the most accurate arrival calculations possible. So all of this kind of increased resolution has been input back into our service. And the way we have done this is that, as you probably know, it's quite difficult to have a weather station at sea. So we've looked at how can we also assimilate other data. So for example, taking vessels' noon reports, we have a large number of vessels at sea every single day, utilizing things such as satellites and assimilating all this data to enhance the forecast model. We have also looked at improving our current forecast model. So again, we've increased the temporal and the spatial resolution of our current forecast, as well as extending the forecast period. So this is particularly important for vessels that are maybe on longer voyages, where we want to make sure that we can have the most accurate forecast possible for them, going past, the regular 15 days. So all of this information is available to our voyage planners to make sure that we always provide the best possible plan to the captains, but also all of this high quality data, again, is packaged up and sent to the NavStation so that the captains can also see this. So they can also use this information when they themselves are thinking about what type of route that the vessel will be taking. So as I kind of talked about, this is the kind of the weather data and the forecasting aspect that at Weathernews that we do. But obviously all of this information is packaged up and put into our voyage planning and into our optimum ship routing service. So what is optimum ship routing, or what is OSR? So when we think about traditional ocean routing, it generally only tended to look at the distance and the time aspect. So kind of what was the fastest route possible. With OSR, what we try to do is expand out of that and look at how we can optimize the voyage further. So here at Weathernews, we are a safety-first company. Safety is the #1 priority. But once we have that aspect sorted and we know the vessel will be safe, we want to look at what else can we do. So we start to look at the full RPM range of the vessel, the full speed range of the vessel, looking at her fuel consumption, the scheduling aspects, looking at those commercial needs of the voyage, and looking at how the vessel performs, so the ship-specific performance. And therefore, what can we do to optimize this? And all of this is packaged together with our 24/7 monitoring and informing service. So we want to make sure that both shoreside and especially the captain is always kept up to date. And our partnership and integration with NAVTOR and NavStation helps us with this in ensuring that the captain is always kept informed. So what is kind of the foundation or the base work of optimum ship routing? So for us, that's the philosophy that the shortest route is not always the best. It's not always the most economical. When we start considering the ETA for the vessel, the fuel oil consumption, the different speeds and RPMs that are available to us, sometimes having the earliest arrival is not always best. And this is what we base our optimum ship routing service around. So thinking about these aspects as well, when we're thinking about heavy weather, sometimes it's not always best to do a diversion, kind of adding that extra distance, those extra miles. What we also look at is, can we maybe slow the vessel down, allow that heavy weather to pass in front of the vessel? Or can we maybe speed her up, try and get her ahead of the heavy weather before we put the vessel back onto the kind of the suggested speed or RPM? And this is kind of the core of our OSR service and what we built our service around and what we build our plans around. And all of this kind of knowledge is all packaged up and sent to the captains via the NavStation. So as I also mentioned, the ship's performance is a large part of our service. So we have a ship-specific performance model. We dynamically adjust this continuously whilst the vessel is underway. So we utilize the vessel's noon reports to make sure that we're always accurately reflecting the vessel's latest performance. This, in conjunction with how the vessel handles in certain weather conditions, is particularly important when we're thinking about how might the vessel perform going forward and along the voyage that she's about to do. so that we can have kind of the most accurate arrival calculations and fuel oil consumption calculations possible. So we have all of this, this data. We have the knowledge of how the vessel performs and how we expect to perform. We have the weather forecasting aspect. And then what we do with OSR is that we look at the commercial needs as well. So we have a number of flexible voyage priorities that we can offer. And the reason why we say flexible is because we know that the commercial needs of the voyage can often change. So as the commercial needs change, so can the voyage priority. So for example, maybe we do minimum voyage cost, where we look at offsetting the higher rates and the fuel rates. Or maybe we do on-time arrival when the vessel needs to be at port for a certain time. So for example, potentially we start the vessel on minimum voyage cost, and then you then have a transit, say for Suez or Panama. We may switch to on-time arrival to ensure that she meets her transit time, and then after switching back to minimum voyage cost. And we like to think of the communication of these aspects as being a triangle. So it shouldn't just be us discussing with just the captain or just shoreside. It should be all of us discussing together to make sure that we come up with the best possible plan for everybody, keeping the vessel safe, keeping the master well informed, but also taking that commercial aspect into consideration. So kind of looking at maybe an example, how our service works is that we will receive the master's intentions, or kind of the plan that the captain's intending to do, and then we will look at this and we will evaluate all the different route options in order to find the best route possible, also taking into consideration your business needs. So maybe the captain is intending to go by the English Channel, but when we evaluate north of the UK, we find that with the current conditions and the expected forecast, that this is the best route in terms of the arrival time and also the fuel consumption. So we can then send this recommendation back to the captain, and this will be seamlessly integrated into the NavStation, so he can see this information and also he can evaluate this himself. So at this point, we would like to show you a brief video to kind of demonstrate this fact. And this will also be discussed further by Gauta in the next section. So we can see here that we have the captain filling out a next voyage information template on his NavStation after he completed his route. He will be able to tell us all of the relevant information that he needs to before sending this plan to us, to let us know on Weathernews' side heavy weather involved, look at the ETA and fuel oil calculations. And then we will also plan and see what's the best route if we think that there's a better one for the captain before sending this back to him. So maybe, for example, a run line is a better suggestion. The captain will then be able to receive this and upload our suggested plan into his NavStation so that he can evaluate our suggestion. So this kind of shows you how we have this seamless communication and integration between us and NAVTOR and the NavStation. So I would like to thank you for the opportunity for speaking today, and I will pass it back to Richard.
Richard, you're muted.
Thank you, Børge. And it doesn't just go to show how the data that comes in from WNI is not just about quality, not just about resolution, but how that data is then brought into NavStation and contributes to efficient navigation and planning. I'm going to carry on now and find into our ecosystem. So I'm sharing here the presentation about our ecosystem. We've used this in previous webinars, and it's very important. And it goes to show just how and why the data works for us. So the diagram, it describes the multi-sections for data. We receive communications from all of our partner organizations. In this diagram, we're talking about Weathernews International sending routes, sending data through, and it comes through our shore-based database. That is then pushed out to vessels onto the only sighted equipment we have on board vessels, which is our nav box. The nav box seamlessly and automatically combines that data and passes it straight through, in the case of updates, straight through to the EGDIS at front of bridge. But also it passes it to back of bridge, our NavStation. So it's constantly in communication, making sure all the data that is displayed is up to date to the latest possible edition and all corrections in there. But it also sends all of the weather data, the new updates, also the OSR, the optimum ship routing data will come through and be passed through to NavStation. Once it's in backward bridge, that is then when the master and the navigator put their navigational experience and expertise into the work, and that data will then be shared back through the nav box to front of bridge in the form of a route and back to our shore-based database. From the shore-based database, the real benefit of an ecosystem like this is it can be shared instantaneously through NavTracker ashore to the shore-based team. So they can look at routes, they can look at route planning, you can look at passage planning, you can look at all of the parameters available through our system at real time. And it gives a very strong share between ship to shore and through our system. NavStation, as I said, and we've discussed before, is our backup bridge solution, is our decision-making platform. If you like, it's our digital chart table. If we talk about traditional methodology, what we do is we allow layering of data. We start, of course, as Alex and as Børge was saying, with ENCs underlying everything. We pass through the Admiralty information overlay, which really spots change and highlights change around the world. Route planning is done utilizing the underlayers. So we can put in the waypoint to waypoint and the route plan there. That can be shared directly, as I said, through the nav box to front of bridge and can be assessed shore-based as well. Availability of Admiralty digital publications as a layer within NavStation is very important, but also carrying on, it's equally as important to have the digital sailing directions, the Admiralty electronic nautical publications. We've included e-publication reader, which includes IMO books. Again, to your fingertips, you have the information required to make the correct decisions, navigation, and also safety-wise. Now we get to the point where weather data is shared. We have two elements of weather in NavStation. We have weather forecasting, which we class here as weather overlay, and which will be discussed by Gauta a little later. Nav area warnings are added in as a discrete layer, and which can be harvested within passage planning later on. Environmental regulations was a feature in the webinar number 3, the one that was the previous one to this one, and where we described how our service is providing data to ensure vessels comply with local environmental regulations for class of vessel and also by flag. Passage planning, as I was discussing, harvests all the data below, and the importance of this is it automates, therefore, a portion of passage planning, allowing the navigator to concentrate his expertise on actually making those decisions that are just required for the route. The data pulled from all of the other sections is then displayed for him to put his expertise to, and the captain obviously will add his approval and expertise to that layer as well. Maneuvering Assistant is a new product in the pipeline. It will be discussed in a later webinar, but effectively this is giving a mobile NavStation which takes data from the pilot plug, meaning the captain is always informed of what is going on. But we'll come to that in a later webinar, as I say. Ultimately, what we're talking about today is weather routing. Alex has shown us information about optimum ship routing, and this is here we call weather routing by our partners WNI. We're now going to move forward and we're going to meet Gerda Fossmark, who's going to talk us through both NavStation and also the weather forecasting and the optimum ship routing. So with that, I'll pass you across to Gerda.
Yes, hello. Thank you, Richard. As I said, my name is Gaute Fossmark. I'm a product manager here at NAVTOR. And today I'll show you a little bit on how we have integrated the optimized ship routing into NavStation. So I think we'll just switch to the NavStation and let us see. Okay, so this is the desktop of NavStation, and as Richard already said, that all of these data are updated automatically. You got ENCs and everything. And also, if you have an agreement with WNI on the OSR service, you will get this button here stating OSR service. So if you click on it, I'll just turn off this in the beginning. This will take care of the communication between the OSR risk assessors and the vessel. So then we'll start if we, for instance, say that you have a route that you are planned to go. You can go down here, select the route. I'll just have one Houston to Rotterdam. Then it will be shown, so you can plan it here on top of the ENCs and everything and all the data, but that's been covered a little bit earlier webinars. So I'll just show how the communication with the OSR is now. So then you have a button, send to WNI. When I click that one, you get this window with all of the information that the risk assessors needs to make you some suggestions. The orange ones are mandatory fields, so you need to fill them in before you are able to send the form. Down here you see there are start and end points. There you can change the cargo you have, and you can set min max RPMs, unusable RPM ranges, and so on. You set the fuel in open ocean, fuel in ACAS, and so on. You can say in remarks if there are something you want to say to the risk assessors. And when you click here on send the NVI, which is short for next voyage information. So this is next information of the next voyage that you want to communicate to the OSR. When you send this, it will be sent successfully. It will be transferred to a NAVTOR infrastructure over to WNI infrastructure, and the OSR, as Alex showed, will be seeing it in their tools. So here you will also have a list of all the NVIs and VPs received here, so you can view the information you have sent to the OSR. So that's the first part of the OSR communication. The other one is when it's the route is assessed and the OSR will respond to you, then you will get what we call a VP. So I'll just turn off this one. This is one I have borrowed from a vessel using the OSR service, which they have received from the risk assessors. The VP stands for voyage plan. So this is the voyage plan that are suggested to the vessel from WNI. You can see down here there are some data every day, which you can see just a highlight. You can turn on and off if you want some of the information, just in the graphical view, and you also have some summary of the route here. So you can see the estimated ETA, the distance, the time you used on the voyage, and also the total fuel oil consumption. If there come some alternatives, then you will get a new line here, and also graphically there will be shown, could be shown 2 or 3 alternatives that if you want to have other suggestions as well. So if you click on the arrow on the right hand side here, then you will get the details of the voyage. So now you can see all kind of weather parameters and sent back from the OSR. And if you see here, I'll go down to where it's in the future. So all this is past. This is also information that is sent in with a new report, with the reported RPM and so on. So if I scroll down to where we are now, you will also see here that the future prior points are in gray, and the prior in gray, and the future points are in white. So if I go to one of these, the vessel symbol will show where you should be at that time and date, and you can select whichever you want here, and all the data that should be for this time and on the voyage. So now here you can also turn on the weather if you would like to see the forecast. That is also automatically transferred to the vessel via from WNI to NAVTOR and to your NavStation. So this will update automatically, and you can you'll just get a notification that you have received a new weather forecast. So you now can see if I click now on the 13th. This will update the weather, so you can see along the voyage suggestion from W9, you can see the weather presentations. So you can see if I'm able to get in here, if the weather are removing before you arrive there. This looks quite okay. And then there are several parameters you can turn on and off if you want other information as well. So if you want to save this, you can also see here that there are gray points. The 9th is grayed bare, and that is red. So if I want to use this route, you can go back to the OSR functionality, and there you say, okay, I want to save this route, save it to route. So this will take the future part of the route and save it as a route, so you can create a passage plan. So if I just call it rest of voyage, so I can find it easily. Okay. And then save it. So now I'm saving it to the route library in NavStation. Then if I just turn off this and go to the route library, search on rest of the voyage, and then you will have saved it. So if there are changes from your prior passage plan, you can create a new passage plan here. Or if you want to edit it, say, okay, I want to go a little bit further north here, you can just move some waypoints here, save it, and then you can create a passage plan if you would like from this point. I won't go into more details on the passage plan. That's been covered in previous webinars. So now I've saved this route. So if I now want to see, okay, what will this affect on my ETA and so on, you can go back to the OSR functionality. So you can see now there's a difference from the recommended route from W9 and the one I would like to take. I turn off this one and then could go to the route simulation. I'll just and the rest of the voyage there. Then you get all the details, and then you can do a simulation on this route or the rest of the route. So you can have an updated ETA and so on the rest of your voyage. So here we'll say the new simulated ETA will be a little different with fuel oil consumption on the rest of the voyage, and also the detailed information on the rest of the voyage here. So this makes it easier to both send routes to WNI, get suggestions back. You can save the route, you can edit the route, make new passage plans, and also do a simulation on the rest of the voyage here. So this is basically what I wanted to show you in NavStation here, and yeah, you can say the simulated route. You can also get it graphical, so I could show that. So I think that's what we want to show in NavStation. So a little bit back to you, Richard.
Thank you very much, Gaute. Very interesting, and actually goes to show how the communication is utilized in the NAVTOR system, and it brings all the data from WNI, the great quality data that Alex was talking about, right the way through to the users within NAVTOR. So the platform therefore supports all that decision making. So going forward, I'm just going to say that Børge and Alex and Gaute, including Nils from WNI, will be available for a question and answer session. I will also be here hosting and passing through the questions. We'll be displaying the questions. Now, I've noticed quite a lot of questions coming in, but I would remind you that top right-hand corner is please ask your questions. We'd love to receive more. We've allowed a good length of time for questions, and we'll go through whatever we can. I will remind you also, at the top of the screen, you'll see a section which is handouts, which is all about the information that is displayed here, but also linking to previous webinars. So you can get a full listing of information and subject matter expert data for what we've been displaying through this series. So going forward, what I want to summarize is seeing what have we seen today? Well, Børge has described we're in safe hands with NAVTOR. I think that was evident and clear, especially with the announcement of the investment in NAVTOR. Alex went through the weather data, which is of the highest quality and resolution. And what it does is it adds real added value and allows for better decision making. What Gaute has described as OSR, optimum ship routing, which provides a huge amount of benefits and is fully customizable and then integrated into NavStation.